Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about some massive Diablo 4 balance updates that just went live on Diablo 4. These are going to affect all classes, and there are again some nerfs. So let's just dive right into it. I'm going to go class by class and go through those changes, starting with Barbarian. Challenging Shout. Damage reduction gained from skill ranks reduced from 4% to 2%. So Challenging Shout made everyone attack the Barbarian. It's like an AoE taunt, and it's going to, each consecutive point you put into it is going to give you less and less damage reduction. A bit of a nerf. Guess it was too good, I guess. I'm not sure, but that has been nerfed. And they also nerfed some legendary aspects specific to the Barbarian, one of which is the Bold Chieftain's aspect. Now, if you remember, this was pretty great if you had a lot of shouts. Like if you went all shouts, you should probably get this aspect, or even if you went maybe 2 shouts. Now, Bold Chieftain aspect had this change, which says cooldown reduction per nearby enemy reduced from 2.7 to 5.4 seconds to 1 to 1.9 seconds. This is more than a 50% nerf, but that's not all. Maximum cooldown reduction from 12 seconds was reduced to 6 seconds. Wow. So the maximum amount of cooldown reduction you can get from this has been literally cut in half. So this is a very bold nerf, you could say, really nerfing Bold Chieftain's aspect, really cutting its effectiveness literally in half, which is crazy. Massive nerf. Now, of course, they couldn't leave it at that. They're also nerfing aspect of the Dire Whirlwind. Now, this is very, I would say, very impactful. See here, we got increased critical strike chance per second reduced from 5 to 10%, from 5 to 10% to 3 to 8%. Ouch. Quite a nerf. And then maximum critical strike chance bonus reduced from 20 to 40% to 9 to 24%. Again, this is like a 50% nerf, massive nerf here to Whirlwind, reducing that critical strike chance maximum and reducing how much you get per second, really nerfing aspect of the Dire Whirlwind, which is fantastic for Whirlwind Barbarians. Not only that, but a Barbarian unique has been nerfed. Gore's Devastating Grips. Explosion damage gained from Whirlwind reduced from 50 to 70%. to 16 to 26%. Again, another 50% nerf. Now, guys, if you're not familiar with Gore's Devastating Grips, at the end of your Whirlwind, you basically cause an explosion and deal damage based off of a percentage of how much damage you did during that Whirlwind. Very, very good. Obviously perfect for a Whirlwind Barbarian. This has just been nerfed, literally 50%, cut in half the explosion damage. So that is a massive nerf. Guess it was too good. It says here also damage against wreckable objects no longer increase explosion damage. So if you're whirlwinding and you happen to hit some barriers, that's no longer going to count towards that total explosion damage. Also says explosion damage is only increased by the first 100 hits of Whirlwind. So if you have like an infinity Whirlwind or just something that where you're hitting more than 100 times, anything after 100 is not going to add to Gore's Devastating Grips anymore. Now I imagine, if you do get it very, very long, that you could almost one-shot anything, right? But there is a cap to how much you can actually do with Gore's Devastating Grips, that explosion at the end. And that's it for Barbarian. So let's move on and talk about Druid. Now I am a little bit, my jaw has dropped from some of these changes because they are nerfing the Earth Druid. And the Earth Druid is what I'm maining currently on hardcore. I stream every day on Twitch TV, my hardcore Earth Druid. And let me just say, it is slamming enemies. It is so strong. It is so tanky. And they decided to take a look at that. And let's see what's going on here. So Pulverize has been nerfed again. Lucky hit chance reduced from 33% to 25%. What I recently found out is that if you use Pulverize with Shockwave aspect, you're hitting a ton of enemies, right? And Energize is like 15% lucky hit chance to generate 10 energy. And so you're hitting a ton of enemies. You've got a pretty nice lucky hit chance. You actually can use Pulverize many times consecutively because of Energize giving you Spirit back. So they reduced the lucky hit chance of Pulverize, so that's going to happen less frequently. You're going to be a little bit more Spirit hungry now because of this when you're using it with Energize, but also every other lucky hit chance that goes along with Pulverize. So that's a nerf, unfortunately, but there is a buff to Storm Druid, and more than one actually. Lightning Storm damage increased from 32% to 40%. If you checked out my Lightning Storm or Storm Druid deep dive video, I choose Lightning Storm as the core ability because I think it's very strong, and now it's even stronger, getting an 8% increase to damage. I think it's going to help. It's awesome ability. I think you should definitely check it out. Give it a try. Grizzly Rage damage bonus increased from 5, 10, 15% to 6, 12, 18%. That is a very minor buff. All of the Druid ultimates I feel are a little weak. Personally, for my Earth Druid, I like to go with Petrify. I will give Grizzly Rage a try once I get Insatiable Fury, but Grizzly Rage getting a slight damage bonus as you remain longer in the form, you do more damage, and so they made that a little bit stronger. Now, the class specializations, the Spirit Boons, have been nerfed. OMG, guys. One of my favorites, Obsidian Slam, has been nerfed. Kills required for bonus increased from 10 to 20. Now, what Obsidian Slam did is every time you killed 10 enemies, your next Earth skill was a guaranteed overpower. Now, instead of killing 10 enemies, you need to kill 20 in order to get that guaranteed overpower. So literally, you're going to have half as many overpowers, unfortunately, with Earth skills with Obsidian Slam. This is very sad. I guess Earth was just too strong. But, it is what it is. It's a nerf. They also nerfed Calm Before the Storm, which had a chance to reduce the cooldown of your ultimate. Lucky Hit chance reduced from 15% to 10%. I believe it had a chance to reduce your ultimate cooldown by 2 seconds on Lucky Hit. So that Lucky Hit chance has been reduced. You even have a less chance to reduce the cooldown of your ultimate. I think it could be good with Pulverize now that I think about it. Anything with Lucky Hit is pretty good, but that's been reduced. So less ultimate cooldown reductions. And then there's also some passive changes. Electric Shock, which Storm Druids would get pretty much always. It says here damage bonus increased from 5, 10, 15 to 6, 12, 18. Very, very minor buff to Electric Shock. It basically did additional damage if they were already immobilized, and if they aren't immobilized, they'd get immobilized. That's what Electric Shock did. Now, those Storm passives weren't the strongest thing in the world, so yeah, it makes sense they're buffing it, but this is such a minor buff. I mean, really, is this going to make people excited? This is like a 1% increase. They also changed some legendary aspects, which kind of makes me cringe because they nerfed Shockwave Aspect, one of the most important ones for our Pulverize, ability here in the Earth Druid. It says here damage reduced from 90 to 130 to 60 to 100. So this is roughly, losing 30% damage. Ouch, that's a big one, 30%. Shockwave Aspect is so much fun. I just got it yesterday on my Earth Druid, hitting level 51, and finally added that to the build, replaced Poison Creeper. But yeah, Shockwave Aspect just got nerfed. I'll test it out today and let you guys know how big of a nerf it was. But man, that's a bummer. Really liked Shockwave. But that wasn't the end. They also nerfed Crash Stone Aspect, a key aspect for the Earth Druid. Critical strike damage reduced from 40 to 50% to 30 to 40%. Now, if you're not familiar with Crash Stone, Earth skills deal increased critical strike damage to crowd-controlled enemies. That's now been reduced by roughly flat 10%, which isn't the end of the world, but guess it was too good. I mean, literally, I was one-shotting bosses, one-shotting elites. Sorry, not bosses, but one-shotting elites with Landslide. Just get a CC on them and then boom, Landslide them, they're dead. One shot. So perhaps it was a worthy nerf. Lightning Dancer's Aspect was also, was actually buffed here. Lightning Dancer's Aspect makes it so that Lightning Storm creates little charged bolts that chase enemies, and they increase the flat damage of those charged bolts from 0.5 to 0.6 to 0.7 to 0.8. So 2 buffs to Lightning Storm, and you should maybe check out Lightning Dancer's Aspect if you are going Lightning Storm, since they just buffed it. All right, moving on from Druid, we're going to talk about the Necromancer. We've got some skill changes here. It says here that Blood Lance damage increased from 67.5 to 80%. This is the second time they buffed Blood Lance. I think they want more players to play Blood Necromancer, so I'm going to try to put together a build in the next few weeks. So don't forget to subscribe if you are interested in future builds coming out for Diablo 4. We have here Blood Lance is going to be based, the whole Blood Necro is kind of a fortify build and overpower, which means it's going to be very tanky, and I think it could be very good for progressing through the late game. But very nice buff there to Bloodlands. Army of the Dead, damage increased from 30 to 45%. Lots of buffs to the Summoner Necro in this patch, which is very exciting. And the cooldown of Army of the Dead was reduced from 90 to 70 seconds. Army of the Dead's really cool. It summons all of your minions if you just log on. So it's really cool that you can just summon everything instantly. So that cooldown's reduced, and that's awesome. And the damage was increased by 15%. So very cool. Another buff to Blood. We have Blood Wave damage increased from 90% to 120%. Blood Wave is the ultimate for if you're going to Blood Necro, so nice to see it get a little stronger. We also have some passives improved. Shadow Blight is actually the key passive if you're going a shadow build, and the damage is increased from 20 to 22%. So that's a very minor buff. I thought Shadow wasn't the strongest, but if you're going Summoner Necro, then this is what you'd get, in my opinion. You'd actually go like a Shadow Summoner, and so I think this is actually a buff to Summoner Necro. Grim Harvest, essence gained, reduced from 369 to 246, so 1 essence less per corpse consumed from Grim Harvest. Grim Harvest is very strong. I mean, making your corpse explosion literally generate corpses is pretty insane. I mean, you can also probably generate this from consuming corpses in a different way, but you know, corpse explosion literally does damage and gave you essence back. It was pretty crazy. So a little bit of a nerf there. Too bad, but is what it is. And Serration, which is a bone passive skill, critical strike damage reduced from 0.1/1/1.5 to 0.3, 0.6, 0.9. So this is roughly 20% decrease in critical strike chance improvement per essence you have. So the higher essence you have, the more critical strike chance you have with Serration, and they just reduced it. So less critical strike from your bone skills with Serration. Then finally, of Death's Defense, maximum minion life loss in a single damage instance was reduced from 75, 60, 45 to 60, 45, 30. And so you're actually going to, this is going to make your minions stronger, tankier. The maximum life lost in a single damage instance was reduced. So this is actually a buff, so you can't lose like all your health from a boss hitting you, which is awesome. It's going to really help against boss fights. And then when it comes to the Book of the Dead, Raised Skeleton, Skeletal Warrior damage was increased by 10%. That's pretty nice. We got Golem damage increased by 10%. Lots of Summoner Necro buffs. And then Blood Golem life drain damage increased from 40% to 90%. That's awesome. Love the Blood Golem. And then Blood Golem life drain healing from enemies hit increased from 4% to 5%. I definitely want to make a Necromancer after this Earth Druid for sure. These are great buffs. And then Iron Golem slam damage increased from 25% to 175%. Talk about a buff. Iron Golem shockwave damage increased from 30 to 40%. Now that's not all, guys. We got some Paragon board changes. The Hulking Monstrosity legendary node has had the Golem life and damage bonus increased from 30% to 40% life. That is amazing. That's going to make them tankier, deal more damage. Great buff. It's going to make more people go for that Hulking Monstrosity board. And by the way, it's not that bad, because when you have a Golem out, there's some tiles on that Paragon board that say, well, you have a Golem out, you deal more damage. And so Hulking Monstrosity Paragon board is not bad at all. Also, the Cult Leader Paragon board had its damage bonus increased from 10% to 15%. This is the Summoner Paragon board. Like if you're going to Summoner Necromancer, you go for Cult Leader. And that got buffed as well. So Summoner Necro, Blood Necro just got buffed. Bone Necro got nerfed a little bit. So cool changes to the Necromancer for sure. Moving on to Rogue, we've got some skill changes. Twisting Blades, Advanced Twisting Blades cooldown reduction per enemy hit was reduced. What a surprise, they nerfed it again. And then Advanced Twisting Blades maximum cooldown reduction reduced from 3 to 2 seconds. So Twisting Blades just nerfed all around to just make it so it doesn't reduce cooldowns as much. And then Rapid Fire damage was increased from 24% to 30%. This is quite good against bosses, actually. Single target Rapid Fire is pretty good. That was buffed from 6% damage, so fantastic. And then Dark Shroud, one of my favorite subterfuge skills for the Rogue, was actually nerfed. Damage reduction per shadow gained from skill ranks reduced from 0.8 to 0.4, literally cut in half. Ouch. So that's a nerf to Dark Shroud. I mean, it was just obviously the best choice, right? It's just amazing damage reduction. Dash was nerfed. Enhanced dash critical strike damage bonus was reduced from 20% to 15%. Caltrops damage increased from 30 to 40. That's an agility skill. You kind of throw those little caltrops down and leap backwards. They made that a little bit better. And we also have some passive changes here. Concussive critical strike chance reduced from 5, 10, 15 to 4, 8, 12. Very slight nerf there. Not the craziest thing in the world. Well, that's actually the end of the Rogue changes. So some buffs to, I would say, the bow Rogue, and some nerfs to the, I would say, the melee rogue, some nerfs to the melee rogue. All right, moving on to the Sorcerer, we've got skill changes, some nerfs to Arc Lash, lucky hit chance reduced from 30% to 14%, literally cut in half. Glinting Arc Lash cooldown reduction reduced from 0.25 to 0.15 seconds. That's a nerf. So Arc Lash overall nerfed quite a bit. Was a very good basic skill. Teleport was also nerfed. We got Shimmering Teleport's damage reduction duration reduced from 5 to 3 seconds. So you got to be a little more careful after that teleport. Your damage reduction is not going to last last as long. And then they nerfed my boy legendary affix aspect of control. Bonus damage reduced from 30 to 40%, from 30 to 40 to 25 to 35%. So that's a slight nerf, 5% less damage. That you deal increased damage to immobilized, stunned, or frozen enemies, you're going to do 5% less. Not the craziest nerf in the world, but a nerf nonetheless. They also had some general miscellaneous class changes. They basically made pets more tanky. It says here maximum damage over time taken per damage instance reduced from 2 to 1% of maximum life for Druid companions and Necromancer minions. Also some changes to the Paragon board. Player attack speed nodes reduced by 50%. Guess they were too good, those rare nodes. And then glyphs were changed. All glyph bonus scaling has been reduced by around 34%, except for the following. Critical strike damage glyphs bonus reduced by around 66%. Vulnerable glyphs bonus reduced by 66%. Glyphs bonus to rare nodes reduced by 50%. Glyphs bonus to magic nodes reduced by 40%. Glyphs bonus to cold, fire, lightning, non-physical, physical nodes reduced by 62.5%. The conclusion of this is that glyphs were just too strong. They were giving massive bonuses to surrounding nodes, whether they were rare nodes, whether they were magic nodes. Glyphs were OP, and so they just got nerfed. All glyph bonus scaling has been reduced. So basically, it's too bad if you did not get a glyph in time to experience that being overpowered. They have nerfed it. And there are some monster changes. Significantly reduced the spawn rate of treasure goblins within PvP zones. As a hardcore player, I did not even step into PvP zones, of course. And so I did not know how high the treasure goblin spawn rate was in PvP zones, but they have significantly reduced it. And of course, there were some random bug fixes. They fixed the name for the Lightbearer mount. The go to shop button from the wardrobe will now actually open the shop. Who cares about that though, right? Fixed an issue where if a sorcerer uses deep freeze and is affected by another effect that would freeze them, they would be permanently stunned. Yeah, there were quite a few bugs when I was playing. And then finally, miscellaneous stability and crash fixes. And that is the conclusion. Thank you guys for watching so much. Don't forget to click that like button and subscribe for more Diablo 4 content. And I'm live every day on Twitch TV if you want to see some Diablo 4 gameplay live. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.